Number 22, I've got Oklahoma. Um, so obviously, I think that Oklahoma is going to get better this year. Not a great year last year. Um, it was just not a good year. Any year that Oklahoma gets beat by Texas 49-0 uh, is not good, and it's not going to be a successful season as far as Oklahoma fans are concerned. And I mean, it's just not. Uh, so Brent Venables and Jeff Lebby, they say they're going to have a more balanced team this year. You got Dylan Gabriel back at quarterback. Um, God forbid something happens to him, or the season takes a turn for the worse. They've got a backup quarterback and a young guy named Jackson Arnold. Cannot wait to see this guy. I think he's going to be really, really, really good. I think if everything goes good this year, you only see him in blowouts, getting some experience and things like that. But I think he's going to be a really good player. At running back, Sawchuk comes in from Colorado. That was actually 2 years ago, and it looks like he's going to get some playing time this year. Barnes is back, so that should be a good 1-2 at running back. As much as they're probably going to want to run the football this year, I feel like you're going to need a third guy probably to step up, because we all know the attrition that takes place at the running back position at this level. Um, it's not a position for the faint of heart. There's hard hits every play, and so it does sound like they have guys that know the system. They know the pickup blocks and all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be staying healthy and developing a third option to keep these guys fresh. At wide receiver, Farouk is back. That guy is really good. Been there a while, got a lot of catches, a lot of yards. So I expect him to have a big year. Theo Weiss has come in from Mizzou. Brennan Thompson has come in from Texas. So they've got a lot of guys, but not a lot of experience, right? Andrell Anthony has come in from Michigan also, and he looks good. Looks like he's going to play. So there is a lot of options at wide receiver, and with Dylan Gabriel coming back, this offense was not bad last year. It really wasn't. If you go and look at all the statistics, it wasn't the offense that let them down, and that's the story that we've come to know with Oklahoma, or really, any team that's been touched by the guy out there at USC. Not much of a defensive coach, but so at tight end, you got Austin Stogner coming in from South Carolina. Blake Smith comes in from A&M. Those are two tight ends right there. Any tight end coming out of Texas A&M last year and transferring, I don't question too much, because they have a pretty doggone good tight end room right now over there at A&M, although they just had one get hurt for the season. Defensive line, Trace Ford comes in from Oklahoma State. Devon Sears is in from Charlotte. Jacob Lacey is coming in from Notre Dame. Rondell Bothroyd is in from Wake Forest. So obviously defensive line was a weakness last year. Two of those guys I just named are 4-stars in the transfer portal, and guys that obviously they're transferring, they have experience, and 4-stars, so they have good experience. It's going to be a rotation, and that's what you got to have, right? And in Oklahoma, it seems like they're kind of building up for the SEC style. I, in my opinion, I think Texas is just a little bit ahead of them, but Oklahoma's been recruiting good, and they're bringing these guys in that have some experience. Linebacker will improve this year. Danny Stutzman is back. You bring in Desan McCullough from Indiana. This guy was good. That's a 4-star transfer. You lose David Yu, and that was just like a huge loss. I mean, this guy had I'm not even joking, he had over 200 career tackles, had started several years. So he's gone, went to Houston, I believe. And you bring in Clayton Smith. So I think that the linebacker room will improve. I mean, this is a linebackers coach that you have as head coach. So I suspect the defense will be better. I think the offense might take a tiny step back or stay the same. And with all that being said, I think Oklahoma ends up 8-4 this year. And I think that that's a successful season, considering the 6-7 mark that they finished with last year, including that that bowl game.
At number 14, someone that you've already mentioned is Oklahoma. I'm much higher on Oklahoma this year than you are. I think you had them around 20. But I've got so Oklahoma went 6-7 last year, right? Underwhelming by OU standards, but it was the first year under Brent Venables. And I think that year 2 under Brent Venables, year 2 under Dylan Gabriel is going to be much more fruitful for the team. They brought in some talented defensive transfers. They've been recruiting really well on the defensive side of the ball. And that's really where they struggled most, is on defense, which was kind of head scratching for Venables. But then I reflect on, being a Georgia fan, and I look at what Kirby did in his first season. It went 8-5, and now 6-7 is not as good as 8-5. I get that, but the point is, Kirby went from 8-5 to, I guess they won 11 games his second year, 12 games, and went to the national championship. So, it really, should have won that game. So there's that year 2 gap that a lot of coaches that we've seen are going through right now, including the one I'm going to mention next. But I think that there's a jump here to be made for Oklahoma. I do see them making that jump again, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. The offense was pretty explosive last year. It's pretty fun to watch. I think that year 2 in a strong strength and conditioning program, and year 2 under this scheme, and there's no doubt that he went in and changed the scheme on defense, right? Venables, that is. So year 2 should provide much better results on the defensive side of the ball after they finished 99th in points allowed. So that's unlike Brent Venables. I think that I don't think in the Big 12 this season, at least, that Oklahoma is going to come in and be a top 10 defense, but they should easily be in the top 25. Brent Venables was a big part of the success over at Clemson for Dabo Swinney, and their defense was always leading the team. And I fully expected Brent Venables to bring that over to Norman, and so far he hasn't done that. But we're only one season in. I fully expect him to turn the corner this year, and if not, then yeah, you do have to start really questioning his head coaching ability, and question whether or not he's fit to be a head coach. He may even himself consider moving back to the coordinator position, but to be determined. Again, I'm pretty high on Oklahoma this year. When I break down their schedule that you see up on the screen, I'm looking at this, and Iowa State could be a little bit tricky, but at Texas week 6 is going to be their first, I think, loss. So they would be 5-1 at that point. This is a pretty manageable schedule. I know Kansas has got a lot of hype around them. It's at Kansas. Okay, maybe Oklahoma has, a 60% chance to win that game. And then Oklahoma State, just looking at this schedule, TCU at the end of the year, I would say that Oklahoma is capable of going 9-3 pretty easily. This is a pretty favorable schedule, honestly. Texas is the only game that I look at and I say, like, yeah, they should lose that game. But I also think that they're talented enough to win it if everything goes right. And I've got Oklahoma at number 14, and I'll leave it at that.